sos asís, B'Hashem, sos asís.
Anybody who has acted in a play or any dramatic art society knows that it's very important just to have a proper set, to have the stage, to have the props, to create the mood for the scene you're trying to create. Certainly when somebody arrives at the Seder for Pesach, we find ourselves surrounded with props. We have everything from our pillows, we have the matzah, we have the wine, we have the Seder plate, we have salt water, we have all the props that we need to put us in the proper mindset for the Seder. I want to just talk for 2 minutes about a few of those props, a few of those things we have surrounding us when we arrive at the Seder table. The first is matzah. Everybody knows probably the most important, the most vital element of a properly done Pesach Seder is matzah. The question is, what's matzah all about? On one hand, we know matzah is called lechem oni. It's poor man's bread. It's bread of slavery. It's what slaves eat. On the other hand, we know the reason why we eat matzah is because when the Jews left Egypt, they were on the run and they had no time to let their bread rise. In that sense, matzah represents freedom. It represents redemption. And so we have this strange dichotomy when it comes to matzah. On one hand, matzah is about slavery. It's about persecution. On the other hand, we know matzah is about freedom. It's about redemption. They seem to be two opposite things. Let's look at the Dalet Kosos. We know we're supposed to have red wine at the Seder. Why red wine? So we know red represents the blood of the Jews who were killed during the slavery of Egypt. Red wine represents slavery. On the other hand, the Shulchan Aruch tells us that a reason to have red wine is because red wine is Yoser Meshubach. It's royal wine. If you're going to drink wine, a king drinks red wine. In that sense, the wine represents freedom, redemption. Again, we have this dichotomy. What is the wine about? Is it about the slavery, or is it about the redemption? I'll give you a third example. We know at the Seder we have salt water. Why salt water? So most people will tell you salt water represents the tears of the Jews while they were enslaved in Egypt. And that's true. And in that sense, the salt water represents slavery. On the other hand, it's also brought down that the salt water represents the Kriyas Yamsuf, the salty waters of the Yamsuf, when the sea split and the Jews were set free. So on the other hand, the salt water represents redemption. And we have the same dichotomy. We have the matzah, we have the red wine, and we have the salt, which all on one hand represent slavery, and on the other hand represent redemption. How can all of these props that surround us represent such opposite notions at the Seder? And I think the explanation is very simple, and it's the following. Whenever we're set free, if a person, imagine you were stuck in a college course that went on for 2 hours and you just wanted to get out. The moment when the bell rings and you're set free, that feeling of redemption, of freedom, is its most stark, most sharp, most powerful feeling. But 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, an hour, a day later, you forget. The memory of that intense feeling of freedom fades. That same natural phenomena takes place when it comes to Yetzias Mitzrayim. When our great-great-grandparents were let free from Egypt, the moment they were let free, when the sea split and they experienced for the first time redemption, it was sweet and it was powerful. And they felt it to the very core of their being. But as time goes by, it begins to fade and recede into our memories. And as we sit at the Seder table, it's very hard for us to feel that feeling of redemption. So what does the Torah do? The Torah says, surround yourself with props, that it will help you, put you in the mood. Things that on one hand represent the slavery, but at the same time represent redemption. So that you can pinpoint that moment when the cards turned, where you went from being a slave to being free. And you could feel it as if you yourself are going through that experience. All of those things we surround ourselves are trying to help aid us to get into that emotional state of mind where we actually could feel like we are being redeemed from Egypt on the night of Leil Seder. So I wish all of us the bracha that we should be able to really internalize that message and to feel ourselves ilu we are leaving Egypt on the night of Leil Seder. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.
אני שמח בזה שאני משמח את השם. אני שמח בזה שאני משמח את השם. סוס עסיס בהשם, סוס עסיס בהשם, סוס עסיס בהשם, סוס עסיס בהשם. אני שמח בזה שאני משמח את השם, אני שמח בזה שאני משמח את השם.